Hey, welcome back. It's Sarah from Roadworthy. I wanted to do a little bit of an October TBR, pile of possibilities, something. And it is Victober, is sort of the traditional booktube staple. I think this year is maybe the 10th year that Katie and Katie have been hosting Victober. Um, and as the name might imply, their goal is to encourage people to read Victorian literature in the month of October. I have sort of two minds about this. Like, there's obviously nothing wrong with reading Victorian literature. Um, but there's part of me, like, I'm just not interested. Um, you know, a part of it is I'm a little sick of um, British authors sort of dominating the English language literary canon. Part of it is, I think, a holdover of our Anglophile ways here in the United States. So these books are sort of revered, uh, perhaps at the expense of other things. Um, and there's also something to, like, when you think about the Victorian world and everything that was going on, there's a part of me that's like, really, do I want to read the white upper class man's perspective? Not really. um, and again, this is like the height of British imperialism. And so there's part of me that doesn't really want to read about the attitudes of Britons at that time. But, but, they're classics because they're darn good stories and darn good characters a lot of times. And so I acknowledge that. And so there are definitely lots of these books that I would like to read someday. I would like to read Middlemarch at some point in my life. I would like to read more Trollope. I would like to read more Gaskell and George Gissing, and, like, definitely plenty of these books that I would like to read. Um, I'm just not interested in reading them right now. But, but. So, I mentioned in my weekly reads that I'm reading Anita Bruckner, and this book was published in the 80s, 70s, 1990. And it's interesting because the sentence structure is so different in this compared to contemporary literature, right? The sentences are longer, the style is different. And so same thing, obviously, when you look at Victorian literature, the books are long, the style, the sentence structure is all completely different. And I am sort of relishing that change in writing pace. And so there is a part of me that's like, actually, I probably would enjoy a Victorian read. And then there's also an aspect of, if not now, when? Like, if I don't hop on the Victober train, when am I going to pick up a Victorian read? I probably won't. So shouldn't I take advantage of the the event? So you can tell I'm all over the place here on my thoughts of participating in Victober. So I'm still not sure if I'm going to do it. But if I do, here's what I'm going to do. So my mother and I always go to Chamblin's Book Mine here in Florida, which is a huge used bookstore here in Jacksonville. And so if I will pick up a copy of The Warden by Anthony Trollope, if I can, I would like to read the Barchester series. And that's what I want to do. I would also really like to read Elizabeth Gaskell. Mostly, okay, let me rewind. So, several years ago, I wanted some historical fiction, and I was looking through, the library, ebook, I wanted an audiobook, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, here's this book, North and South. Hadn't heard of the author, but I thought, great. Oh, a book on the American Civil War. Fantastic. I'll listen to that. And I was very confused when it's in England, and it keeps being in England, and we're following this English family. And I'm like, why aren't we hopping over to America? And, I did a little research and quickly figured out what North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell was really about, and really, really enjoyed that book. And I really would like to read more Gaskell. I really like that she is looking at industrialization and looking at sort of working class, middle class issues, not looking at landed gentry, right? Looking at people in trade, manufacturers, those kinds of things. I really, really appreciated in that book. Also, she has a reputation for also being interested in more issues that women were facing at the time. So she, my understanding is she writes about more things that I think I'd be interested in. So she also has a few novellas. So I am interested in The Poor Clare, which, as I recall, is about an orphan, and is supposed to be a very good depiction of a sort of Victorian teen. So that seemed really interesting to me. Cousin Phyllis, which I don't remember what it was about, and The Moorland Cottage, which I also don't remember what that was about. So really prepared Booktuber here. But those were three of her novellas that I was interested in. Also interested in her full-length novel Lizzie Lee, which is about a prostitute. So curious to read Elizabeth Gaskell's take on that. So I think that's what I'm most interested in terms of Victober. Of course, with fall coming and Halloween, the spooky season, that transition into fall does usually color my reading as well. So I don't know, we'll see. We'll see what I end up picking up in October. But those are my really tentative Victober plans. Okay. If you have Gaskell recommendations for me, or other recommendations from Victorian authors who aren't upper class white men, let me know. I'd be interested. All right.